standing on that red dot, lights in my eyes, all the clapping, all the eyes staring at me, and suddenly I realised I wasn't just telling my story, I was rewriting my story. So in the green room, with all the fears, all the nerves, and all the excitement, and definitely questioning my life choices that had led me to this point, all the doubting myself, the judging myself, fear others will judge me, this huge fear of failing, and even wetting myself on stage. Yes, that was a real conversation that I had with myself. But I want to change the way people viewed themselves. And to do that, I needed to talk honestly about how I saw myself and the things that I've heard other people say, and touch on this raw subject of body image. But not just body image, the awful things that we say to ourselves in our own head. But I have never shared lots of these things that I spoke about like out loud before, or at least not in this way, as in not in front of a lot of people who don't know who I am. I remember my sister-in-law, talking to her about it, and she had this really confused, shocked look on her face because she had never heard me call myself fat before, which in all honesty surprised me because my brain is forever saying it's me. So I'm not sure how I haven't said that out loud before. But a few years ago, if you had told me that I'd be doing a TEDx talk or even standing on stage, I literally would have laughed at you. And not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't believe I wouldn't be able to. And then last year, I had gone to a conference over in Portsmouth. It was called Mindset Maintenance. Look them up, they're amazing. They do lots of free stuff in Portsmouth. And I watched the lovely Hannah, and I think her talk was about wellness. But as I watched her, I saw myself there. I saw myself standing on stage sharing my message just like she was. And I thought, yeah, okay, maybe I'll add that to my future me goals, like in maybe 10 years or something when I'll be a little bit more ready. I have awkwardly shared my my slight love for Hannah and for her inspiration for getting me to that TED talk, because, I think it's important that we share with people who impact our lives, because simply just by her having the courage to stand up on stage and share her message, she changed the belief that I had about myself, the belief that I was capable of doing that too. So how amazing is that? I'll share all her details in the show notes. So with this newfound, yes, I can do that too, I obviously did absolutely nothing. But roll on 9 months, and then up came this kind of post on social for TEDx in Gosport, and my brain went, yes, Jules, you should totally do that. And as some of you know, I'm a little bit impulsive, but my gut knew that this was it, that this was my chance. So I had a plan of what I was going to talk about. I wrote the outline, and it took me a few days to build up the courage to actually fill out that application form. So then on that day, so I think it was like on a Sunday, it was one day over the weekend, I sat on my desk ready to go. And then I noticed the theme was storytelling, and I panicked. How I'd written my talk was not about storytelling. But after I'd finished having a meltdown, I realised that everything I talk about is about the stories that we tell ourselves, from what we can and cannot do, from how we should and should not look, how we should behave, how healthy or what we should be doing for our health, what our house should look like, and how our life should be. All of it is a story that we tell ourselves. And then it got me thinking, what do I want to talk about that scares me the most? As in, what holds me back? And what do other people feel too? And what do I talk about most with people? And it was a no-brainer. The things that we say to ourselves that stop us living our life, or more specifically, the things that we tell ourselves about our body that makes us hate it so much. And this is deeply personal. From about my mid-20s, I wanted to change how I looked. My looks have always got me attention. Cringe moment. It's always, I don't know why it's always cringy to say that out loud. All right, pretty girl. So my eyes and my figure back then, I mean, it couldn't possibly have been my delightful personality. But my brain wanted to stick to that story, so it did. But my looks put me in a relationship where he tried to kill me, so I didn't want to look like me anymore. And then came the emotional eating, and along came the weight gain. And then inevitably, I spent my 30s trying to untangle the emotional eating and the weight gain. And then I entered into this cycle of chasing weight loss. And it wasn't until after my son was born that I was really starting to get frustrated with all the rules. And I do talk about those early days of my son being born in a much, much earlier episode. So I won't talk about that too much. I won't talk about that at all now. But I do remember back then being told that I wasn't allowed to have fruit in the afternoon by a fitness instructor, and my brain just quit there and then. Like, it just said, right, no more rules, no more listening to somebody else, no more diets. You will find your own way from now. And so I did. So I started to break down those rules. I started to notice those rules. And, all of those rules that are around us all the time that are trying to tell us what we should and should not be doing. And when you start to notice it, you start to see them everywhere. So I could see all of these expectations and these rules telling me how I should be living my life. And, it kind of sounds it reminds me of Handmaid's Tale, doesn't it? You're just maybe not blindly going along, but you have all of these, this is how it should be for you. So I didn't want it to be like that anymore, my point is. But anyway, I applied and I called it Beyond the Mirror. So my original talk was called Beyond the Mirror, the stories we tell ourselves about our body and how to change them. It's a little bit wordy, isn't it? But to my absolute surprise, I was shortlisted for an interview, and I had to wait maybe 3 weeks, maybe even a little bit longer. So it was a really long time, and not that I was worrying about it, but it was there at the back of my head, So I rocked up at my interview, and I can't even tell you how nervous I was. Like, my soaking wet, sweaty hair would have given you a big enough clue as how nervous I was. And I literally cried my way through it and left feeling completely doubtful. And then it happened. My rejection email came, and I felt so much relief. It was the most lovely rejection email that I have ever had, and asking if it was okay to keep me on the shortlist as like a backup and to put me forward for like next year. And I was like, absolutely. It will give me a longer time to build up my confidence, like starting small in a library with like 5 people. However, a day later, I got another email and saying sort of like they had a space open up and do I want it? And I remember being sat at the beach when I got it thinking, no, actually, no, I don't. I was okay not doing it, basically. And the impulsive Jules had left and the rational brain came in, and it's now thinking and now it's worrying. And of course I said yes. The bit in the middle is probably the hardest. It's the scripts that need to be written, and then they are rewritten like probably what feels like a million times. And every time you practice it and it flows better and you get it, it's like there are adjustments in there that need to be made. And most of this is your own doing anyway. It's not like they're saying like this needs to be changed, that needs to be changed. They support you, don't get me wrong, like masses of support. But ultimately, if it's not flowing for you when you say it, then it has to be changed. But you have to practice that in order to see whether it flows. So sentences are changed. If they don't sound right or flow right, or you're just waffling quite frequently, you rehearse on your own, and you rehearse in the car and in the shower when you're sat on the toilet. You rehearse with other speakers in front of the team for the dreaded feedback, which is never as bad as what you think it is. All the while, the doubt and the fears and the tears come along for the ride. So you start to repeat it as as like a full script, and you just get it one after the other. Every single one of your sentences and paragraphs just flow, and you're like, yes, finally, I've got it. And then sometimes it doesn't come. Sometimes you miss out whole sections, and it's probably the most frustrating thing that I've ever done. And I live with my husband. So writing this talk had absolutely opened up wounds that hadn't properly healed and reinforced why I do what I do. And it's called What If the Mirror Isn't the Problem? Because I want you to question why you believe your body is the problem, like it's something that needs to be fixed. And in the talk, I touch on the 3 reframes. So the first one is notice these borrowed stories that we have. You know, I remember and this only came to me the other day, and I wish I'd remembered it before, because it would have been maybe funny, but maybe not so funny to include it. But I remember my nan telling me that I needed to wear clothes that covered my body, in particular covered my tummy, because otherwise I would rot my insides. And at the time, it's like, you know, you won't have any babies because your insides will be rotted. You know, ultimately, I had to go through fertility treatment to have my daughter. So I'm just like, you know, and I don't think it stuck as a big thing, but there was that I've done this to myself because of that one story that I rotted my insides because I used to wear belly tops all the time. Like, these stories that we have might not seem very significant, and they might feel insignificant at the time, but they form beliefs. You know, I know that I didn't cause my polycystic ovaries, and having a cold tummy definitely didn't cause it. It's insane, but that's what's said, and that's where these stories come from. You know, being muscly makes you a man. Being skinny makes you more lovable. Notice these stories so that you can start to dismantle them and start like changing your belief, changing the stories, because they are borrowed stories. They're inherited from those people around us. And then we need to like ditch the shoulds. When I stopped trying to follow all the expectations, I found so much peace in myself. And that's how I teach others to live. Again, like, let's not make Handmaid's Tale a reality. But next time you say should, pay attention. Why should you? Obviously, there are times that we, you know, actually should like do things. We should go to work because we've got bills to pay and we want to have money. So we should do that. But notice why you want to do the other stuff. Why shouldn't you eat a biscuit? Why shouldn't you eat that chocolate bar? Question those shoulds. Why should you go and do, you know, whatever it is? Question, these are probably some really bad examples there, but you get my point. Question why you do things. Notice why you do things. And then challenge whether you should or should not be doing those. And then, you know, we need to surround ourselves with new stories. So when I started to fill my world with different stories, I was able to create a life that I wanted to live rather than just following this narrow tunnel that I was blindly following. My social feeds are full of women who admire, who inspire me, not admire me, but inspire me and are adding to my life. And I follow men who support women, who don't shame others, along with things that make me laugh, make me think, and good news stories and some politics, especially the ones where it concerns women's rights, and it's rife at the moment. But I don't want my newsfeed full of shit that will make me feel like shit about myself. Like, what's the point in that? So there is no fit inspiration in there at all. So do the same. Clean up your feed. So my talk was never about the lights, the claps, or the views. It was about what I was going to learn about myself. I wanted to step outside my comfort zone and stop letting this fear of judgment hold me back. And there's 2 things that I took away from standing on that red dot. The first one, without a doubt, is courage. But that doesn't mean that I wasn't scared while I was doing it. It means that I did, or I am going to do it anyway. I'm going to have the courage to do it, and I'm going to do it scared, but I am going to do it anyway. It pushed me into doing challenges in other areas of my life which I was holding back, and I can't wait to share with you my next personal challenge. I have signed up for the Great South Run, and if some of you have heard me before, you know that I absolutely despise running. But I have signed up for it because I hate it, and I do actually want to like running again. So I've signed up for that, but there is another challenge, but I'm mulling that over in my head for a minute, because there's lots of stuff around it that I'm considering first, but I will share all of that with you very soon, I'm sure. And the second is the reinforcement that what I believe in is where I'm supposed to be. My approach to health, fitness and wellness is in fact exactly where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, so that I can help women in particular break free from these invisible handcuffs that keep us small, even if we don't even know that it's kind of happening to us yet. Handmaid's Tale again. But I'm not some superhuman. I don't have a mindset that is different from anybody else's. I feel deeply. I am completely irrational sometimes, incredibly angry other times. I also know that my life has been a learning experience that has brought me here to this point, or to at least to this way of kind of thinking. And you also have a life that has brought you to this point. What lessons have you learned, and how can you use them to help other people, or just use it as a fuel to create something different? The lovely Leslie's talk is about how she turned left, and she puts it so beautifully. She has been given this path to go down at birth. This is her birthright. This is how the family should do things, and this is the life that she should have based on who she was surrounded by when she was born. But she turned left, and I love the is it analogy behind that? She changed what she was given. She changed what was given to her, and she chose to take a different path. I love that. I love that she puts it so beautifully as well, much, much better than I ever could. But she chose to take a different path, and she created a different life for herself. We can all do this. And by understanding what we believe about ourselves and the path that we should be on, and practicing doing something different and thinking differently, we can all change our future. We just have to take that first step to the left to be able to do it. And I will link Leslie's in the show notes as well, because I think that'll be massively helpful to understand that concept a little bit more, because she puts it so much more eloquently than me. So if you want to go and watch my TED Talk, crack on. It's awkward, and it's a bit funny, and it's emotional, and you can see that my heart is well and truly on my sleeve when I'm delivering it. But I also want to invite you to join my 5-day mini series, which is about rewriting your story to help you change that voice that's in your head. And if you ever find yourself standing in front of the mirror, just remember, it's not you that needs fixing, I promise.